Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's take on Longlegs, starring Nicolas Cage as a serial killer who looks very, very weird. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 15. Available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free, Joan. It's free. Anyhow, Longlegs. Yeah, I heard this movie had some mixed reviews, but generally some horror fans liked it. I won't rely on their reviews ever again. How can I say this? Not a good movie. Not good. Not good movie. So as always, I'm giving my non-spoiler review, but that's the long and short of it. The movie doesn't really make sense. Most of its atmosphere and precious little sense. Sorry, Joan has a little indigestion. Very little sense, Joan. Very little sense in this movie. Doggies wouldn't understand it either. I didn't understand it. There is, I guess, some supernatural stuff going on here, but it doesn't work. I don't know what it's supposed to be. They never explain it. I guess you're supposed to figure it out that it's the devil possessing certain inanimate objects. I won't say. I don't want to give away a spoiler, but it doesn't really tee up that very well, and it's not very clear, and there are long pauses. It's achingly slow in some portions, which gains you nothing. Now the opening, mildly exciting. And at first I'm like, oh, okay. But I could kind of see the big scare right in the beginning pretty quickly. But the ending of this is a GD mess. This movie suffers from a problem that a lot of screenwriters have, especially in a movie that has a reveal. There's not enough characters. See, you have to populate your world with enough people in it so it feels like, man, I don't know who the murderer could be, or who the well, I don't want to say. I don't know who the character is we're trying to look for, let's say. And if you don't populate the world with enough characters, there's only so many damn suspects. And by the end of the movie, you're pretty much left with, okay, it has to be this person. So there's no surprise in that, because who else could it be? If it was a new person, you'd be like, oh, who is this? And if you were never introduced to them, yeah, that's really bad screenwriting. That's like another level of bad screenwriting when you introduce a character in the third act. You haven't even seen him before. The other thing is, Nicolas Cage is in the movie, but he doesn't look like Nicolas Cage, I'll say. See, like this thumbnail, in my view, is extremely misleading, because he doesn't look like that in the movie at all. You barely recognize him. I don't even know if it was him. Might have just been a guy who sort of looked like him with a lot of makeup on. And then Cage came in and did the voice. Not that it matters. He's barely in the damn movie. And when he is, it's just like kind of like, okay, there's Nick Cage acting weird. Not really enough to carry the movie. It shares some... It kind of overlaps. If there was a Venn diagram of movies, this would overlap with Silence of the Lambs a little bit. Mainly because the main character is female. And I think they were kind of going for that, but it doesn't really work. So I can't really tell you much more without getting into it. So spoilers ahoy. And I don't recommend this movie at all. And I don't think I've ever said that on a review. I don't know who would like this movie. I don't know who it was for. It its ending is not good. The entire movie's not good. It's slow, plotting. You know, it sets up things, and then weird stuff happens at the end that make no sense to me. And maybe some of you in the comments can straighten me out. Sometimes you do. A lot of times you're just mean. But anyhow, let's get into the spoilers. So first act, you've got Lee Harker, who is a FBI agent, and she's already messed up from frame one. Like, I don't know if she's supposed to be autistic or if she's just so antisocial she can't function in regular society, but that's the way she comes off. So she's kind of an unlikable character right out the gate. And right out the gate, she gets partnered up with a dude, and it takes place, I don't know, in the late 70s, early 90s it takes place. And so they're sent to, somebody was killed, and there's a little prologue with her, which you find out later is her as a little girl, but whatever. Not really earth-shattering to even tell you that. But they are tracking a serial killer that convinces the family, mainly the dad, to kill the rest of the family and then himself. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know how the FBI came to that conclusion and why they're chasing Nicolas Cage to begin with. They have so little evidence, they couldn't possibly make that conclusion. So it doesn't make any sense. Anyhow, Lee and her partner are sent to a neighborhood to canvass, and Lee at some point says that's the house he's in there. The father of the family that's been murdered. And the other guy goes, oh, well, let me, we can't call it in. Let me go knock and talk to the guy. And, of course, the guy just shoots him. And then Lee gets into what appears to be a cat and mouse, but then the guy just surrenders. Like, so what was the point of him shooting the guy at the front door if he wasn't even going to attempt to shoot Lee? Doesn't make any sense. And that guy's quickly forgotten. Just kind of disappears. Then we move on to the strange messages like the Zodiac Killer messages that Longlegs has been leaving. And that's what leads them to believe that he's the actual mastermind behind all the murders. I don't know why they, in no realistic world, no grounded universe, would the cops even do that. I don't even think they'd put it together in the multiple murders that he supposedly commits, right? Like if a cop found this strange message, but they already knew the father killed the family and then himself, case closed. It's kind of the way the cops operate. And that would be logical. Okay, we know who the murderer is. Unfortunately, it was the father and killed his family and then killed himself. Here's a strange letter. Well, we don't need that letter. We already know who committed the murder. I don't even know they'd put it in the police report. But somehow it ends up, and then somehow years later, 30 years later, they're putting all the pieces together. But no one can figure it out, of course, except Lee, who I guess is mildly autistic and has a strange relationship with her mother. So Lee somehow figures out, breaks the code, like just breaks it, figures it out and what's being said. Right after Longlegs sneaks into her house, which again doesn't make any sense. She's paranoid. She hears a noise, creeps around the house, sees something outside, goes outside to investigate. I guess leaves her door open. While she's outside, sees Longlegs inside. By the time she gets back, Longlegs has left her a letter, and he, of course, is gone. And then the letter is another code, and she breaks it immediately. Okay. Now she knows the code. Her boss is like, how'd you break the code? And she doesn't really give him an answer. The boss is also trying to introduce her to his family, and she's kind of rude about that, but she meets them anyway. The only reason she meets them, I guess, is so at the end of the movie there can be a big scene where she knows them. But so Lee continues to pursue Longlegs and his various clues, which don't seem very clever at all. And I think another murder happens, and then they eventually go to visit a victim who didn't die during one of the murder attempts. And Lee has somehow figured out that the birthdays of the girls are key to figuring out why he targets these particular families, and somehow putting the birthdays on a chart makes a little triangle, which is important for, I don't know, triangle reasons. And then we get to see that he also makes strange lifelike dolls of the girls because he's an expert doll maker. And then it's eventually revealed that the flashback in the beginning was when Lee met the killer as a 9-year-old girl, but he didn't kill her because in flashback it's revealed that the mother was going to be killed by Lee, or not by Lee, by the Nicolas Cage. But Nicolas Cage didn't kill people. He convinced other people to kill themselves. So she cuts a deal with him, like a deal with the devil, that she'll help him as long as he spares her child. Which is odd, because first off, is there no other way? I mean, couldn't you just lie to the serial killer and say, yes, I will help you. Untie me and I'll immediately help you. Leave my child alone. And then he unties her and you run away. You grab your kid. He leaves and you grab your kid and go to the cops and you leave. But that doesn't occur to her. Instead, she joins up for 30 years of murder. See, she's the assistant murderer. And Lee suspects that earlier in the movie, which doesn't make any sense. That she'd spend 30 years murdering whole families, or helping the murder of them, with this weird doll maker. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. At any time she could have left. She doesn't actually kill anybody either. It's the dolls that turn the fathers crazy and they go nuts and kill their whole family. It's very strange. And then at the end of the movie is just cuckoo bananas. See, Lee figures it out and goes to confront her mother, who gets the upper hand on her, knocks her out, and then goes and delivers a doll to her boss, who has a family. You remember she visited her boss's family, and she promised to go to the birthday party, which is significant in the film. Oh, and I forgot, by this time, Nick Cage, his character, killed himself by banging his face against a metal table until he was dead. Which, again, seems stupid, dumb. I'm not sure how you can kill yourself that way. Is that possible? I guess it's possible. But it doesn't make any sense, because if he's that powerful, if he's got supernatural devil powers, why didn't he free himself or continue to make dolls or whatever? And really, his mother doesn't have to continue to kill people because Nicolas Cage is dead. Why is she continuing to deliver the dolls? And who's going to make the dolls now that Nick Cage is dead? No one, as far as I know. I guess the mother will continue to make them. So then there's a big bloody scene at the end where her boss kills his wife. And like, Lee kind of knows it's going to happen the way the movie's set up. But rather than doing something before, she sort of lets it happen, then has to shoot her boss, then has to shoot her own mother to save the girl. Wow. A terrible, terrible ending. Makes no sense. Unless you add in the supernatural element, which is just sort of there and unexplained. I'm not sure why the dolls do it. There are details in the screenplay that don't pay off to anything. So, for instance, at one point they find a doll and it has human hair, okay, but a lot of the hair is missing. But then later in the movie, you see the doll from an earlier time and it has all the hair. So, what was the significance of the hair? We don't know. Why does Lee's mother continue to murder people in her spare time with the help of the doll maker? We don't know. The doll. Why doesn't Lee remember meeting the doll maker? We don't know. I guess you could assume she was traumatized. Why does her boss suddenly go nuts after he sees this doll? Don't know. Don't know. Doesn't seem to have a reason. There was no setup for that. He just becomes incredibly angry and aggressive around the doll once it's delivered. It's a magic doll, I guess. So that's Longlegs. Horrible. And Nick Cage has so much makeup and prosthetics on, he's barely recognizable. You kind of hear it in his voice. And the movie jumps from scenes of like people just living their lives in the early 90s to like, well, we're not going to show Nicolas Cage. He's mysterious. Then there's a whole scene where Nicolas Cage goes into a hardware store and interacts with people. And now suddenly he's interacting with people and we're seeing him. And it's like, well, I thought he was supposed to be this mysterious figure that somehow can murder people and get away with it by convincing them or making these evil dolls or whatever. It's never really explained. It's never really explained how he makes the dolls, why he makes the dolls, how the dolls become so evil it can convince people to kill themselves, why they've never found any of the dolls before. The mystery doesn't come together at all unless there's a bunch of supernatural nonsense that they're not telling you that may be explained in here's the video, the end trailer. No, that I'm sure there's going to be a video out explaining the ending, but who cares? The movie doesn't come together. Look, when you write a screenplay, you write it like this. Everything you write has to drive the screenplay forward to the ending. That's the whole point of the screenplay. You only have 90 minutes. By the way, this movie was about 100 minutes, and it felt like 17 hours. Another bad sign. You could have easily cut this movie down to 85 minutes, I'll say, simply because there's just a lot of long pauses and people who just don't get on with it. I don't think the filmmakers or the screenwriter know what they're doing. It's just too much fluff here and not enough something. It's all atmosphere and no plot as far as I'm concerned. I heard some okay things about this movie, and now I'm starting to seriously question anybody who would recommend this movie. And I've never seen a movie that I would not recommend quite as strongly as this movie, especially one with Nicolas Cage in it, who I like. You got to have a plot. There's got to be reasons Nick Cage builds dolls and messed up his face, and those reasons eventually lead to his downfall. But it seems to be trapped in atmosphere and trying to subvert everyone's expectations. By the time you get to the reveal it's the mother, it's not a surprise because the mother's the only person left in the movie, really, other than her boss. And it didn't make any sense for her boss to be the murderer. And it certainly doesn't make any sense for her boss to suddenly go crazy and kill the mother. Like, it made zero sense. Like, why is he suddenly angry and crazy? Because the doll was delivered. Okay, so the dolls do evil things. Why didn't Longlegs just send him a doll the moment he started to investigate him? It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense Longlegs got caught at all. And Longlegs, there's literally zero evidence connecting Nick Cage's character to the murders. Zero. He didn't kill anybody. He made a doll, which, after many years, is discovered at one of the victims' places. That's not enough to convict somebody for multiple murders, especially ones committed by other people. Like he would skate free easily. It doesn't make any sense that he would kill himself. They would end up letting him go. I don't even think they'd be able to get through a court case with it. These are things you have to consider when you're writing a screenplay. Do you have to show it? No. But you have to consider them. So you have to make the evidence work. Like, the evidence would have to be so strong, and Nicolas Cage knows they'll never let him out of prison, that then he kills himself. They'll never let him out of the nut ward. And we have to hear or see those reasons. And that's why he kills himself. Then maybe you can make at least that part of the movie work. Why do the dolls make people go crazy and kill their families? That should also be explained or hinted at. It shouldn't just happen. By the time that's revealed, it's like, okay, so why does this happen? It's very late in the movie. And there could have been some evidence. Like, for instance, they could have found dolls at the scenes of the crimes. Life-size dolls, because these were creepy life-size dolls of the girls. Or pieces of them. Or the material from those dolls, which are later analyzed and found to be the same. Or, hair that's all taken from the same people. Let's say Nick Cage himself is using his own hair to make the dolls. I don't know. Something to tie Nick Cage to it. Why does he even kill himself? Why didn't he just call a lawyer and get the hell out of there and go start murdering more people? Makes no sense. And Nick Cage somehow magically can kill whole families, get them to kill themselves, walk into an FBI agent's home, leave her a message, and escape without any problem. But once he's caught, no. He's done. The movie makes no sense to me. It's just a bunch of scenes of tense scenes with characters you don't really care about. I don't really care about Lee because she's emotionally distant, and there's no explanation of why. Although the implication is Longlegs maybe traumatized her, but we don't know that until the end of the movie. So you spend most of the movie going, oh, she's kind of a jerk. Maybe if you got some wind up into it, maybe if you had Longlegs say something, because he did meet her. In Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter psychoanalyzes Clarice, and she almost breaks down. Like, she's kind of right on the verge there. And, Hannibal Lecter is a practiced psychiatrist, and he's using his skills to eviscerate her thoughts and feelings. And this is very dangerous because she could get caught up in it, and other people have gotten caught up in Hannibal Lecter's mind games before. In this movie, Nick Cage's character is just cuckoo bananas. He doesn't seem to have a plan. Doesn't seem to a plan that makes any sense. They keep cutting to, I assume, the devil, which is in a black veil. I don't know, maybe it's a ghost. I don't know who it's supposed to be. But without any explanation, you're just left to go, what's going on? So is it scary? Not particularly. It doesn't have any tension. And since Nick Cage he's sort of in it, but kind of not really because he's so disguised, I'm not even getting my fix of Nick Cage. So, yeah, I don't know how this movie made any money. But again, maybe some of you in the comments can enlighten me. What the hell did I watch? And that's it for me, Tony D. And Little Joan. Check us out on the green site, the orange site, and the black site, where we have more videos. I will be putting up those videos later today. I'm not sure when. In the meantime, I am at the Richland Shoreline it's Shoreline Vintage in Richland, New Jersey, for the market, the outside market, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. today. So hope to see you there. We'll see you